Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Fitness Goal Friday. Today, I'm really excited to talk about the topic of why muscle is a key to health and longevity. The goal of the Best You podcast is to allow you to feel confident about what you need to do, why you need to do it, and how to do it in order to get closer and closer to your best you. Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Fitness Goal Friday. Today, we are going to talk about something really important to fitness and really important to all things health and longevity, and that is the importance of building muscle and the importance that muscle has inside of your body to regulate different things. And one of the reasons why I'm really excited to talk about it is because, as a lot of you guys know, in quarter one of 2022, I had the spike goal in my terminology of increasing my nutrition education and expertise. And in order to do that, I read 9 different books throughout the first 3 months of the year. And I listened to a new podcast every single week on a different topic of nutrition. And when I was doing that, I took in all different kinds of points of view, all different opinions as to what you should do, what you shouldn't do. And when going through it, I pointed out a number of commonalities amongst people, regardless of what their viewpoints and opinions were around mostly what their viewpoint of nutrition was. And last week I talked about one commonality, which is a lot of people believe that there is a role that fasting can play in a lot of people's lives. And I talked about when you should do it, why you should maybe do it, when you shouldn't do it, and things of that nature. And today we're going to talk about another commonality, and that's the importance of muscle mass when it comes to your health and when it comes to your longevity. And there's going to be 2 main things that I really talk about as to giving you the reason why muscle is super important. And the first one is the role that it plays in glucose and insulin regulation. And so if you guys are unfamiliar with the topics of glucose and insulin and how they play with each other, this is kind of the overview, big picture look, super quick breakdown is when you eat food, when you have carbohydrates, then glucose then enters your body. And when glucose enters your body, that signals your pancreas to release insulin, because insulin then goes to your cell and is the transport vehicle for the glucose from outside of the cell to inside to the cell to be then used for energy. And so let's say somebody has a lot of carbohydrates, and let's say they have a lot more muscle cells than this, but just for simplicity, let's say somebody has 100 muscle cells and they have a ton of carbohydrates. Then they have those 100 muscle cells for the glucose to be able to enter the cell and then be used as energy. But if that same person who eats the same amount of carbohydrates has 200 muscle cells, then there are more muscle cells for that glucose to be able to go in and be used for energy, therefore regulating your blood glucose levels and insulin levels. Because what happens is when glucose comes into your body and insulin gets released, if your cells are insulin resistant, meaning insulin does not do the job of bringing glucose into the cell and glucose stays out in the bloodstream, then your body continues to secrete more insulin because it's like, oh, there's still glucose in the blood system. I need insulin in there to get it into the cell to be used as energy. But then it doesn't work, and then more insulin gets secreted. And so when you have constant high blood sugar and when you have constant high levels of insulin, it leads to inflammation. It leads to all sorts of problems internally inside of the body. So we don't want excess blood and excess insulin inside of the body. That leads to all sorts of things. And so in order to avoid roller coasters in your blood glucose and in order to avoid chronically high insulin levels, if you have more muscle cells to be able to intake this glucose when you eat it, then you're going to be a lot better off when it comes to hopefully not storing that stuff as fat. I mean, think about it. You guys have all seen it. Guys, sorry, girls, but guys, generally speaking, this obviously isn't everybody, but guys, generally speaking, can handle a higher level of carbohydrates and a higher level of sugar because they have higher levels of muscle mass. Girls that have more muscle are going to be more able to probably take in more carbs because they have more muscle cells to be able to use that for energy. And so that's one of the biggest reasons why muscle is super important, is to help regulate your glucose and your insulin levels. And regulating those things are super, 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 super important when it comes to longevity. Dr. Mark Hyman, who is somebody I listened a ton to over the last 3 months, and I still listen to him on a weekly basis on his podcast called The Doctor's Pharmacy, a quote of his is, "Muscle is the currency of health." And there are a ton of studies that show a correlation between muscle mass and muscle mass retention and lifespan and longevity. And all of you guys know, as you get older, you tend to lose muscle mass. And we all know that's bad. You don't necessarily know why that's bad, but a big reason is because of what we just talked about. Because if you lose muscle mass, but you intake the same number of carbohydrates, and then the same amount of glucose enters your bloodstream, then you're not going to be able to handle it as well as you previously did when you had higher levels of muscle mass. Reason why I'm talking about this is so many of you guys out there, you're afraid of muscle. Girls in particular, right? Girls are afraid of muscle. Muscles don't necessarily just have to be bigger, but they can be more dense and more efficient at doing these sorts of things. So number one reason why muscle is super important for health and longevity is because the role that it plays in glucose and insulin regulation. Along those same lines, the second reason is because of the role that it plays with your mitochondria. Mark Hyman talks about that your metabolism, so much of your metabolism is in your muscles, because that's where all the mitochondria are. Your mitochondria, now mitochondria is in every cell, don't get me wrong. But the mitochondria in your muscle cells are required to do a lot of work. And so if you have more muscle cells, then your mitochondria are going to be more at work and burning off the excess glucose and the excess fat that you have in your body. Again, if you have more muscle cells, you have more potential mitochondria to break down things as fuel and to break down things as an energy source. And with that being said, kind of along the same lines, on the line of mitochondria and exercise, when you put your body through a strenuous situation, you tend to regenerate new cells and therefore rebuild mitochondria. So old, unproductive mitochondria, faulty mitochondria get turned over and new ones then are formed. And therefore new ones are really good at breaking down things as an energy source and using glucose and using fat as an energy source. So again, to kind of recap the couple of different reasons why muscle is key to health and longevity. Number one, to make it as simple and to give you some sort of a graphic or a quantitative idea, everybody has more than 100 muscle cells or 200 muscle cells. But let's say that somebody who does not have a lot of muscle has 100 muscle cells. They only have that limited number of muscle cells to be able to take in the glucose or the carbohydrates that you eat. Therefore, if you only have that amount and you eat too much, then you're going to have excess glucose in your bloodstream and you're going to have chronic high levels of insulin, which leads to disease. So if you can have, again, more muscle cells, let's say 200 compared to 100, you have more cells that can actively take in this glucose to be used as energy. Therefore, there's not excess glucose in the bloodstream that can be turned to fat, and you're not going to have chronic high levels of insulin that would lead to potential disease. The second one is the important role that mitochondria plays in your metabolism and your overall health. If you have more muscle cells, you have more mitochondria at work. And also when you actually exercise and are building muscle, and in the process of exercising, you're putting your body in a state of stress. And so that forces your cells to be rebuilt and regenerated. Therefore, old, weak mitochondria die off and new, more efficient mitochondria are then created. Therefore, being able to process energy sources at a more efficient level. I hope today, more than anything, if you didn't understand any of the science that I broke down today, that's fine. What I hope it did do is I hope it encouraged you or informed you or educated you on the importance of muscle, both right now and as you get older. And I hope it allows you, if you don't have a good strength training routine right now, we got to get there. We got to get there. You got to start implementing something to get you going. And if you do have a good strength training routine right now, stick with it. Let this be a motivating kick in the butt to not let that habit go by the wayside. And for you girls out there who might be a little bit scared of building muscle, let this be the thing like, oh, wow, that makes a lot of sense. I need to make sure that I do strength train and I do work on building a little bit of muscle, or at least make my muscle fibers more dense and more strong and more efficient at doing these sorts of things. Make sure you guys share this episode with a friend or family member right now. Share it with your workout partner, or share it with that person that you know that is scared to build muscle. Share it with that person that you know who is not quite with it with their workout routine right now. Maybe this could be the spark to get them to do a little bit more strength training, implement that into their lifestyle. All you got to do is click share, the little 3 dots, share it to them, send it to them via text, or you can send them to nickcarrier.com/podcast as well. And if you enjoyed it, I would love it if you leave a 5-star rating review. That's going to be the best way to help the show move up the ranks, so that when people are going through looking for new podcasts, this one pops up, and therefore they can get closer to their health and fitness goals, and they can get closer to the best version of themselves as well. And if you want more personalized advice with your specific nutrition routine and your specific fitness habits, then make sure you join the 10-week transformation. nickcarrier.com/10WT. If you're in person here in Nashville, the next one is going to start May 30th, a Tuesday, Thursday, 5 a.m. group and a Tuesday, Thursday, 7:30 a.m. group. It's going to be great, May 30th. And if you're virtual, if you live somewhere else, I've got plenty of people who have done it virtually as well from all over the country. And you can join at nickcarrier.com/10WT as well. It's a great way to keep you motivated, provide you with some structure and accountability to make sure that you get closer to your health and fitness goals, and so that you can ultimately get closer and closer to your best you.